All right, ladies, we are live.
Hello, everyone. We are excited to have you joining us today. We are the Keep It Holy Sis podcast. And what we're all about is we are Christ-centered sisterhood, bringing real talk, biblical truth, and encouragement to women doing life in every season and every stage. And so we are so happy to have you joining us tonight. We got a great topic. I'm going to tell you about it in just a minute. But first, my name is Jackie Pugh. I'm going to be your host for tonight. And I'd like to have each of my sisters who are on introduce themselves, and then we'll get into what we're going to talk about tonight. It's a good
Hi,
one.
okay. I'm Marilyn Marshall.
Hi, I'm Latoya. Hello, everyone. I'm Robin Hudson.
And I'm Dana Davis. Welcome.
All right. And tonight's topic is purpose, my will versus God's will. I think
Mm,
this is a great topic
It is a
because
great topic.
we deal with this as women all the time. It's just a
Hmm.
constant tension and a constant wrestling
Yes.
yeah.
between my will and God's will and whose will is going to prevail. But I think, it's interesting that in our society today, you hear a lot about purpose. You got the purpose-driven life. You got the term doing life on purpose. You've got what is my purpose in life? People looking for purpose. You've got I have a higher purpose, a higher calling in life. And so I thought it would be great to start off with just you all sharing when did you first begin thinking about purpose in your life? And what did that mean to you? Like how were you defining purpose? Was it what career path were you going to take, or was it what God wanted for you, or when did you first begin thinking about purpose in your life? Let's start with you, Robin.
Okay. Honestly, for me, I will say college. When I was in high school, I'll be honest, I did not want to go to college. I wanted to go straight to cosmetology school because your girl here was playing in somebody's hair all the time. So that's what I wanted to do. But I had an amazing high school counselor who made everybody fill out college applications, right? I only filled out one. And it just so happened that the one application that I filled out, the school accepted me. Not that I had bad grades, it wasn't anything like that. Just had some stuff going on at the house, and I was trying to figure out the fastest way to grow up and move out and start my life. But I will say, when I did get to Langston, I was exposed to some things that helped me figure out kind of the direction I wanted to go. But God was working through all of those things because He merged the two things together that He gifted me with education and hair. So, yes, I went to school, I majored in education, got an opportunity to graduate from there, still went to cosmetology school, but now here I am, a cosmetology instructor. So, he had a plan. It just kind of went a little bit differently from the way I expected it to go, but
Mhm.
it put me in a position to where I was able to achieve some additional things other than what I thought my path should have been.
Mm.
So, yep, college for me.
How about you, Dana? That's great.
It didn't come until probably just I didn't know hit rock bottom. Well, I don't even know if it was rock bottom. I started off as a child with dreams, but I wouldn't call that purpose. It's just people
Yeah.
telling you, oh, you should do this, you should do
Yeah.
that. And you just kind of go along that line, line of living, whether it's college or getting married and so on. It was when things didn't go like Robin said the way I thought they were supposed to go, which I kind of got exposed to, through seeking God and going to, we had started going to church, my husband and I, that God showed me, I really, sit down. This is not what I have for you right now. Going to law school was really the big one, going to law school and doing that. So I had 3 kids, so it wasn't going to be a law school right then at that time. And so I started serving to answer your question, Jackie. I started serving in church. And the crazy thing about it, is I had gotten a work study program, a grant through a scholarship, and they said you can donate to any 501c3. So the ministry that I was at the time, I said, well, you know what? That's great. I'll start serving. So I talked to the administrator there, and they found places for me, as they should have, because I would have did the same thing. And I started serving with a youth program, and I was like 26. And I started liking it. It was a lot of growing pains, but I started liking it. And then that kind of continued on through just my life. And looking back, I'm now doing the same thing I was doing then. It's just in a different way, which is always with people. It was youth then it was young adults, then marriages, and so on and so forth. So anyway, that's how serving.
I love how God takes us around and gets us right, right there where He wants us.
Right.
How about you, Marilyn?
Well, mine was kind of different because I thought I was in my purpose. I had a grandmother that always told me, "You're going to be amazing. You're going to be," and I truly believe that. And so when I went into corporate, I was one of the top executives that climbed the ladder. By the time I was 35, and so I thought I'm in my purpose. God meant me to be in corporate America, and at 35, I started saying, "Is this all there is?" I'm like, I can't believe this is all there is. This is what I'm going to do, babysit, because that's pretty much what I was doing with about 200 employees. It was like I'm babysitting. And so one of the things that happened with me is that um, at lunch, instead of eating my lunch, I would go work out every day. That was my routine. I would go work out. So eventually I had several other coworkers that would say, "Where are you going?" And I'd say, "Going to work out." And they were like, "Well, can we come with you?" And before I knew it, they were like, "What do you do?" And so I started showing them what I did. And, it's amazing how, you don't see your purpose. And then other people, God will operate through other people to show you your purpose. Because I remember them saying, "You could really do this. You could be a trainer." And I'm like, "I just like to work out." And they were like, "No, you love to work out and you love it." And I'm thinking, wait a minute. So I made a decision at 36 that I would become a trainer. I literally took I found this top trainer. She was the second woman bodybuilder in the world, and she probably thought I was just a stalker because I met with her and I said, "I would like to work in your facility. I'd like to learn from you." And that's one thing about me. I always wanted to learn. If I was going to do it, I was going to learn from the best. And so she took me on, and I started running her facility while she was doing bodybuilding competitions, and I built my client base from there, and that the rest is history. And it was almost like that's how God put me on the path to becoming a trainer, because I never would have thought I'd be a trainer. I never would have thought. And this has been 30 plus years now, and my purpose is changed. It's changed so much because I thought that I was supposed to be getting people physically fit, teaching them about nutrition, and now it's become it's definitely a ministry because I've seen people mental health. I've seen women come through that are overweight. I'm just thinking, "What are you eating? Blah, blah, blah. Let's do this." But at the end of the day, then they're telling me that they were sexually abused and as a child, and that's why they put the weight on. And it's strange how you become, that person that's mentoring people that are going through divorces and just
Yeah.
it's just all, but it's amazing how God will use your purpose to change lives.
Yes. Wow, that's awesome.
Mhm.
Latoya, how about you?
Oh my gosh. So I started thinking about my purpose when I was very, very young. And it really was because I had become a mother young. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, I have to get my life together because I don't know what I'm going to be able to teach this child of mine if I don't get my own life together. But my life still did not turn out the way I thought that it would. Originally, when I was going to school and things, I wanted to be a lawyer. And I am definitely not a lawyer now. Because I was like, okay, I'm going to spend like 12 years in school, and I don't think I want to do that being a teen parent. So I was like, okay. So I went to school. I started for nursing. I got accepted to the Lowenberg School of Nursing, and that's in Memphis, Tennessee. So my alma mater is the University of Memphis. I still graduated from there. But I've quickly realized that administration was my gift. So I was like, blood and needles and people and that type of care is not my forte. So I ended up with a health service administration degree. Let's just say that. Um, and I'm not going to say my degree is 100% worthless because it's not. It's helpful, but I definitely am. I'm 100% an entrepreneur now, but I'm a virtual assistant. But like Dana was saying, my purpose did happen because I was being of service to other people. And I think that makes the best leader is a servant leader, honestly. But before I got there, I was just always like, oh, well, I can help you do this or that. I'm very much so a tech person background. I can do all of those things. But again, me trying to get there was not the road. I would say it's a road that's less traveled, and it's a little weird because I was hopping from place to place trying to just figure it out, if you will. But I think I have landed and grounded in a place that the Lord would have me, and it's still not easy. It's just very rewarding. It's very rewarding, I would say that. And not in material ways either, not necessarily talking about monetary wise, but I'm very fulfilled and content. And I feel like my life is full.
That's great. And you brought, I think probably all of you would say that. And I think it's just
Yeah.
amazing how God's, how we have our purpose and our desires, and how when we surrender to the Lord, He brings us around to allowing us to experience what our desires are, but using us, kind of molding it so that He is glorified and He uses us in that. My story is just like all of y'all's. Um, I really didn't think about purpose until I came to know the Lord. I think prior to that, I was just trying to figure out what should I get a degree in. And because I could not decide in college what I wanted to get my degree in, I got it in business because that's general and you can generally do most anything with business. But it was like when I came to know the Lord, I was finishing college, and somebody told me, you could substitute teach with your degree until you figure out or until you find something in your field. And I had never been around children. And so I started substitute teaching and I loved it. I never think I'd want to be around kids, but I really enjoyed being with children. And so it was around that time that I was coming to know the Lord, and God used that, and I ended up going back to school and studying teaching and education and getting a degree in that. But still for a long time I felt like you know what is it, Lord? I was still kind of looking for my purpose, and it's really not until I'm in this end of my life that I'm looking back thinking, wow, I guess I have been kind of walking in my purpose all these years, doing what I'm doing. I've always thought it was going to look another way. And now looking back, I think that, God just had me right in there. So I think it's just such a wonderful thing about how the Lord moves in our lives and how He directs and guides us. I want to ask you guys another question. When we talk about purpose, how do you uh, how do you define it? How do you define purpose? Um, and how is God's definition of purpose? Let me just say this. How is God's definition of purpose different from the world's definition of purpose? So
I
how
would
These
is
say,
God's
kids.
mhm.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Go
go
ahead.
on.
So I'm being funny, saying these kids nowadays, they always talk about being happy. And I'm
Yeah,
jokingly saying that.
no, it's true.
But it is a true
Mhm.
thing about being happy because I believe that God's definition is more about being holy and faithfulness. I think is how He values and measures what would be purposeful
Mhm.
against what the world be like. Oh, it's a thing that just brings you so much
Mhm.
happiness and makes you happy. Because I will tell you, like again, walking in your purpose is not easy, and you're not always going to have the days of this is great. Like it is
Mhm.
still very much hard work. It is still sometimes, wrestling with God and, trying to be like, I don't want to do this sometimes.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
have those things. So it's not always like this joyful walk. And not to say
Mhm.
that it's not one, like, again, it's very rewarding, but I want people to really understand too that it's not like you're waking up every day, like, this is the happiest thing in my life to do.
Yeah.
It's just not often that feeling, if that makes sense. It's not really a thing of feeling. You're really doing it.
Mhm.
It's a faith walk. And it's just a hard one, it's a hard one. It's one and it ebbs and flows.
Mhm.
And so that's what I would say would be the biggest thing for me is happiness versus holiness and faithfulness.
Mhm. And I think a lot of times when you're walking in your purpose, I know I found out at the age I am now that my purpose has never been about me. That
Mm-hmm.
that is something that
Amen.
I walk out every day. It's like this is not about me. I'm here to serve. And even when these clients are getting on my last nerve, and they know, but at the end of the day, it's like, you know what? We're on this battlefield together, and we're gonna put in this work, and we're gonna get these numbers right, and we're gonna do what we need to do to make sure you're medical when you go back to that doctor. But I think at the end of the day, I think we forget, even when it's, like it's not about us as far as with, all the joy, all the, it's never going to be like that. So I think you find your joy in seeing other people, because I know I do. When my clients are telling me that my doctor said this and I've moved through this, and it's such a plus for me. And that's where the blessing comes in. And I think we just have to realize that's what it's about. Others, your purpose.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to start with the world first. Okay,
Mhm.
the world, for me, I feel like it's more self-serving. It's
Mhm.
more selfish. It's more about
Mhm.
what can I gain,
Mhm.
And as it pertains to the Lord, it is for me, when you're in His purpose, it's going to always glorify Him
Mhm.
and or lead you closer to Him, and whoever's path you cross with the purpose, it will draw them closer to Him as well. But it always goes back to Him.
Yep.
The world just does not think that way. They want you to think more
Mhm.
about status and all of those things, not
Mhm.
about godly in His kingdom. So that's, yeah, that's for me. That's, to me, that's the difference for me.
Mhm.
Oh, there's so much. There's so much. I love this topic, purpose. So I'm trying to, I'm listening to all of you all because I'm gonna try to compact my thoughts. But I think of like two people in the figures in the Bible that I think of when I think of purpose. I think of Moses and I think of Joseph. Joseph, I
Mm.
think of someone who had a dream and, he started off with that ambition, I'm going to be this, I'm going to be that. Yeah.
Mhm.
And his father, he got in trouble, right? But he knew all along. What he didn't know was what he was going to have to go through, and he probably didn't know why.
Yeah.
But then as he went through it, he got to the end, and when his brothers came, he said,
Yeah.
God did this all along, so because he knew that I would be here. And so
Yeah.
to me, that was a situation
Yeah.
because you never saw where he complained. It was almost
Mm.
like he
Yeah.
he he
Right.
accepted, but he also
Yep.
knew. And I think that's the blessing. But then you have another person that, like a Moses, that I don't think his life, he was called, he was designed to be used by God. Adopted, you guys make, the story, called, goes, kills, one of his own, goes away, and
Yeah.
probably thought I was about to live happily ever after. But then here come, God tapping him. To me, I think
Yeah.
that was unbeknownst to him that his life was about to change. And
Yeah.
that to me is a whole different thing. Like he was just kind of going through life, kind of drifting, probably wondering, not realizing that he was about to be used. And I could probably personally identify more with that situation because then the culmination of everything he went through then made sense as God
Mhm.
used him, to lead those
Yeah.
millions of people out. Then it made sense, but it wasn't I think some account says he was like 80 years old.
Yes. Hmm.
That every kind of going back to what you said, Jackie, every singer, every scene of his life began to come together and God was trying to use him. But the difference with him is he wasn't like Joseph. He didn't want to go. So I kind of understand that, because so it's a little bit of what all of you guys are saying, because sometimes the purpose isn't glamorous. I don't know that Joseph thought it was glamorous, but he seemed a little bit more like, hey, I'm gonna be used. I'm gonna be in charge. He seemed a little bit more accepting of it versus Moses was more, and not to say he was haughty. Maybe he was, maybe that's why he had to go through some stuff. But it seemed like he was ready to go through that. It probably was some pains. And I do think going back to the world, I do think that that's okay. People know that their voice, I believe that your purpose is always in you when you were born. You may not be using it for the right reason, but I think it was always there. I.e., you may be, I don't want to say singing for the world is bad, but God may have called you to sing for his kingdom in the ministry. So I think it's always there. If I was an administrator and a leader, I think it was always there. You just may not have known for who it should be glorified to and for. So
yeah, all of that. I love all of that. Holiness, selflessness, glorifying God, blessing others. Let me ask you guys this. So I know that we've all just now talked about God calling us to a specific purpose. And when we shared, we talked about how that purpose was more so kind of tied to what it is that we do as occupation. But what about the woman who's at home with her children? Is she walking in purpose? Or is purpose something that comes at some point? Is it something that's outside of our home? Or is it something that we're always walking in?
I think
Any of you can chime in.
I think you said, I'll just say this part. You said something a few weeks back, Jackie. You said different seasons of life. I think your purpose can change, evolve. I don't think, and so, you'll always be a parent, for instance, but how you parent is going to change. You got more time on your hands. So maybe you now are used in the local church or maybe for a local organization, and God still use whatever gifting he's given you. So I do think it can change. To your questions, the Bible says children are a gift from the Lord. So I absolutely think he expects you to be used to train up that child in the way that they should go.
Yeah.
And I'm in agreement with that too. Not only does it change, but I think that, like Dana was just saying, what's in you will come out of you, right? Like what you're born with and what you're naturally doing. Sometimes I believe that is really what is going to come out of you, especially if you're at home, like with your husband. I know I've said it before, like, in leadership and administration, you're the boss. So I've had to pipe that down because I'm not the leader of the house. My husband is. So I can't be the leader too. So those things, like, just naturally, like, yeah, that's still in me, but how to use it, would be to help him and not to be the head, right? So as an example of what I'm saying, but it's in you. It's in you.
Yeah. So purpose is like walking in God's character. Purpose is surrendering to his will. Purpose is being obedient to God's word. If you're a Christian woman and you're trying to walk in purpose. So really purpose is something that we are walking in daily. And I like how you use the example of Joseph, because Joseph was faithful. So a big part of purpose in Christ, it really is faithfulness, regardless of what's going on in your life, in your situation, or faithfulness as God takes you through the different seasons of life. Because Joseph went through some different seasons.
Yes,
he spent a lot of time in prison.
Right.
And in before he ended up in the palace.
Right.
Yeah. So he went through some stuff. So walking in, I think women need to understand that walking in purpose is really surrendering to God, being obedient to God, and allowing his will to drive what you're doing.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys another question. Can you share a time when you wrestled with wanting something that is good, but God seemed to either delay it or deny it?
Anyway.
I
Okay, so
Well,
nobody
think
jumping at it.
something.
It'll be in my pause moments. You
Jump
know,
in.
Jackie, I think for me, it's really, I was saying this just yesterday. I said it to you guys before the call. It's really like, God, are you pleased? God, is this what you want me to have? Is this what you would have me do? I don't know that I've ever found, like, I think not covet, but I admire those who know from a young age. My daughter's one of them. My son, they know that they feel that this is their calling, and they're going and journeying that as if it is. Me, on the other hand, don't feel like it's happened. I feel like a little bit more like the Moses situation. You just, you go, you gotta, you're called, your God's called you and He's chose you, but I do know that, He's called me to serve His people, and I know He's given me certain gifts, but that exact, so in other words, there have been many things that I've applied for that I'm like, God, I'm supposed to be doing that. And it was like recently, early on, everybody's like, "Oh, Dana, you're lucky. I don't believe in luck because the things were just happening. Oh, you got this. Whether it was, you got on that, you got on that. In the last 4 years, I didn't hear no a lot, and I'm like, now, I ain't gonna lie, I kind of been like, what you doing? What you doing? Because I'm like, I want to be
Yeah.
used. I want to be obedient. All the things
Yeah.
you said, but I feel like so for right now, I'm just staying active and momentous so that I won't be, I'm getting older, so that I won't be lethargic. So I'm kind of answering your question in that I'm just trying, by faith, I'm serving Him, but it's not specific because the things that I thought I should be doing, I feel like I've been getting a lot of no's.
so one of the verses that I like in Philippians 1:6, it said, he who begins a good work will carry it to completion. That's one of my favorites. And it said, God is continually shaping and developing us in His purpose. And so just kind of like what Dana was saying, it's just like, hey, it's a daily thing as far as shaping us and doing the things. And, it might take years, but he's doing a work. He's doing a work
Amen.
in you.
I think having to understand that my timeline is not God's timeline.
Right.
You can pray for something and you think that you want it quickly or soon, but then sometime God, He doesn't necessarily say no, but He says, not right now.
Yeah.
And so having to be mature enough to understand and know that when God is delaying something, it's for your good. Because you don't know if He would have opened that door at the time you thought the door should have been open. You don't know what was behind it, if you were ready for it, if you were prepared for it. So, being older and more mature in my relationship with Christ, I now understand that if He shuts the door, I'm saying, oh, thank you, Jesus, because you already knew what was behind that door and it was not for me. So I'm now grateful and thankful that I understand that His timing is the timing, and that's the only timing I should be concerned with, not with what other people think and what they say. Because I always have to tell people, I'm like, you know what? Sometimes you have to like shut your mouth and not share the things that you are going to do, because people will put you on a time frame or
That's
timeline.
good.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
if you tell them that timeline and if you don't meet it, they're in your face. Well, you said you were gonna do this and that, bam, 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 bam. And those are not the people that you answer to.
Right.
And so sometimes it puts you in a space to where you stop and you quit and you might give up. And God is telling you, I didn't tell you no, I said not right now. So then it sets you back because your focus is on the people and not on Him.
That's good.
And
So
I think with me, a lot of times with disobedience will set you on a path that you're just not ready for. And I can remember getting an offer from someone, and and I felt uneasy about it. I didn't feel there was not a peace about it, but I did it because, as far as with it's like, wow, the money's amazing. They're offering this package, they're doing this, and it was basically an exclusive, person that had all this money and just wanted a personal trainer to come to their home and this and that. And I can remember walking in and her telling me, well, this is what I was, and she's going on and on and on. And it was like a voice said to me, is this what I created you for?
Mm.
Is this what I is this the path I put you on? And I stood there and I'm looking at her, and you know those cartoons where they're talking and it's like this, and it was always like my ears shut down. It was like I could not hear. I saw her mouth moving, but I couldn't understand. And it was like, get out of here, get out of here. I said,
Wow.
you know what? I don't think this is for me.
Yeah.
And she goes, what do you mean? And she was really upset about that because she wanted me to cater to her. And it was like,
Yeah.
you know what? This is not what God has for me. And I
Yeah.
just had to ask God for forgiveness and apologize and get out of there. And so I think, when the disobedience sometimes comes with something we think is our purpose, and it's not.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I will say again, being an entrepreneur is a faith walk daily. And the things that I would say for who you are, especially a believer, you want to make sure that when you are
Mhm.
partnering with somebody, that it aligns, right? That it aligns. And so you don't want to be in disobedience. Number one, you do want to make
Yeah.
sure that whatever you stand for, your company stand for, it aligns. All money ain't good money. Um, and then to doing what he is asking you to do without um some pushback, I think is difficult. So for me personally, being an entrepreneur period was something that is a bit of like, how did that happen? I'm a very shy person and a very much so an introvert. A lot of people would not know that about me. To be a business owner, you have to talk about your business. You have to talk about who you are and what you do and why you do what you do. And you have to explain these things. You have to create proposals, have meetings, all the stuff is front facing that I'm like, I'm a background person, be up front. And um to have to do that is just like, okay, God, why? I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it this way. I'm okay with being an entrepreneur, but why do I have to do it this way? Why do I have pictures? Why do I have to be on a website? Why do I have to say stuff? Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to lead meetings? I don't want to do that. So here we are, and I'm doing all those things
Mhm.
because he
Yeah.
said so. But that would have been my wrestle, I would say, more than anything, because I am a background person. Let's just say
Yeah.
that. I don't want to be up front and center on anything. I just
Yeah.
don't like that. But here we are.
But it's funny you say that, Latoya, though. I think
Please. Oh,
I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
no.
No, what you were saying is, I think, I don't know, and this is what kind of what we were talking about a few weeks ago. Whenever you're doing something for God, I have not met anyone. I mean, I've met people who believe by faith they're in God's purpose, and they're like, yeah, I'm doing this for God. But most of the people that I know intimately that have had to make sacrifices, they seem like they're making the sacrifices and they're a little bit more hesitant. And I can just speak for myself as a person who I didn't know that I needed to or like to be upfront, but I didn't mind being upfront. I grew
Yeah.
up in an entertainment capital. So I didn't care what people, oh, you want the spotlight, say what you want. I didn't care about people's opinions like that. But what I would say though, when you're doing something for God,
Mhm.
it shifts because the mantle is a little bit different to me, because you understand the consequences of misserving his people or
Mhm.
miscommunicate. At least in my mind, I fear. So in my mind,
Yeah.
so praying about everything, and I don't know that So when I think it's funny, to your point, that's something I feel now, whereas in the past, you give me a challenge. Oh yeah, girl, I'm not afraid. You don't want to do it, I'll do it. In a minute. And I still try to balance
Yeah.
myself where I'm like, Dana, you're used to this. Even for something I got coming up with the ladies, as I spoke about, there's
Yeah.
still it's just something about trying to always be purposeful and show my light, even though some may look at it as more fellowship and just a fun event. In my mind, I'm always charged. Dana is always charged. Don't think you're gonna go on vacation with me. I'm always be this deep, but I'm always charged with, you know, uh, I got people, I got captive shining God's light. That's how I look,
Mhm.
shining his light
Amen.
and
Yeah.
glorifying him. and bringing people to him in some way, in a seed, right? It may not be
Yeah.
breaking out a whole Bible verse or scripture, but if I can, great, if he allows me to,
Yeah.
because everybody that's coming, some of them are my neighbors, if you get the point there. And sometimes I'm like, God, give me the wisdom on how to plant that seed so that someone else may water it and ultimately it can grow.
Yeah, absolutely. But to that point too, Dana, like everybody, is different in that sense. But this is something that I've had to grow to do, as far as like something like this, a podcast. I'd be like, girl, no, we are not doing that. We are not getting on a camera and literally speaking to the people. Like that was just like, no, I did not. Like I fought with that for a long time. I struggled with
Wow.
that for a long time as far as how I would present myself to people. I mean, like things from down to like the way I speak, the way it sounds was like second guessing. I'm just like, Lord, I don't want to do it. I look so awkward. I feel so, but it was a wrestle, is what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
to know that had I never done it, the way that I look at it now is you don't know who you're touching and how many lives of the people that you're
Right.
changing if you don't walk into what you're supposed
Amen.
to walk into.
Amen.
And so that has always spoken with me too, or just like spoken to me. It's been like, okay, if you don't move, there's going to be several other women that you're supposed to meet and touch that's not going to move. So I need you to move. And I'm like, so yeah, that's just my little spiel on it. But yeah, that was my deepest wrestle, I would say, with my purpose.
We're glad you're with us. Thank you for your
Yeah.
obedience.
Yes, we do thank you for your obedience. And it's amazing to
Yes,
see how
amen.
God transforms us. That's
Mhm.
that transformation work. That's the work of the Holy Spirit. He does the work to complete the goals. God, in fact, this is one of the scriptures I had on there that Christ Jesus to do good works. So he has a plan for us. So were you getting ready to say something, Dana?
No, I was just,
Okay.
no.
No,
You know,
something
I
else.
think that we all
Go ahead, Jack.
go on, Coach. No, you
No,
go.
something I was going to say too. I think, when you're walking in your purpose, like Proverbs 19:20 says, to seek wise counsel. I think, that was the biggest thing for me, because when I became a trainer, one of the things, my style of training, I believe in being, pushing tough, bringing out the best, something that you can't feel like you can do yourself. I'm going to try to push you to that level, and beyond. And so I remember people telling me, you would probably get more clients if you would just be a little bit more softer and just, kind of just encourage. You don't have to push them like that, because really they just want to come and work out. And I can remember thinking, is that what I should do? And I can remember when I first began, I remember thinking, okay, well, maybe I should pull back and be easy. And then it was like I heard the voice that said, you know what, you are not the trainer for everyone. You are not whoever God sends.
Amen.
And one of my
Amen.
biggest prayer is
Good.
this. I pray this constantly. God, you send me accepting spirits. You send me
Yes.
accepting spirits, and I'm going to take care of them. I'm going to do what you have me to do, and I'm going to walk in your path for them. I'm going to walk in it, Father. And so
Awesome.
I remember people telling me, no, chill out. But then I had those ones that said, no, that's why we come to you, because I wouldn't do this on my own. I would not do this on my own. I would not push myself like this. And my life has gone to different levels because of the way you push me. So I think you got to just always seek wise counsel for people that are gonna spill into you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's why you got to keep your eyes on the Lord too, because it's so easy to compare yourself with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so easy to think, oh, it should look like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, yeah, it's really just easy to get thrown off what God is wanting to do in your life and in the way that He's wired you. He has a perfect plan for you. Um, when you see other people walking in their giftedness and you think, oh, maybe it should look like that, and I'm not wired like that, so maybe I should be doing this particular thing. But let me ask you this, surrender. We're a little bit more mature. We've been walking with the Lord a little bit longer. But surrender is not easy, especially when it involves hurt, especially when it's confused. Um, my question to you is why would you say it's hard to surrender to what God wants in our lives? Maybe for the younger Christian woman,
Mm.
what makes it hard to surrender, and how do we move beyond that?
Well, you say the young Jackie, but
And anyone can chime in on
yeah,
that.
I'll chime. Galatians 5, it says the flesh and the spirit fight constantly. At least my version said that. And when I think of constantly, now it may be harder when you're younger because of urges. And I'll let y'all figure
Mhm.
that one out, right?
Amen.
You're not
Mhm.
married,
Amen.
but when you're older, and I still think the flesh, in fact, I think it could become a stronghold if you don't watch yourself, because you can get so caught up in doing the same thing over and not surrendering and not obeying, that flesh becomes harder, and it becomes a
Yeah.
stronghold. So I think, to your question, I think I answered is it's the flesh. It's the flesh doesn't. What
Hmm.
was who was it that said every time I want to do good, evil always shows up? I forget who said
Yeah.
that. Is
Hmm.
present, and he
Hmm.
was with the Lord,
I think it was
on a
Paul.
constant. So
Yeah.
I
I don't,
piggyback.
look at
Hmm.
Judas. That's
Mhm.
always my favorite go-to. I mean, this is a man who was chosen
Hmm.
to be a disciple. That was his
Hmm.
purpose, to be in leadership at that time, was with our
Hmm.
Savior and Lord on a constant, saw him do mighty things, yet he allowed that flesh to overtake him. Now, I think
Yeah.
ultimately he got the revelation, like, oh, but he was not exempt. So if he
Mhm.
isn't exempt, I'm not
Right.
going to be exempt.
Mhm. Yeah. So I'm just going to break it down a little bit differently. So not necessarily biblically, but just out of experience.
Yeah.
So the way younger people, I would say, look at things is they're looking directly at what has been around them. And they're like, okay, that didn't look like that worked. Like, oh, you walking with the Lord, but you were drunk, or you're walking with the Lord and you are doing these things. So they are looking and analyzing the life that is around them and the examples that they do and don't have.
Yeah.
We as parents have to realize, of course, we are not our children's only influence, number one.
Right. Yeah.
And so the people that are around them, we should definitely be, as parents, praying. But we have to know too that our children come into agreement with things that we can't, that comes outside of our protection as they become young adults. So when they are coming into agreement with these things, like Dana is saying, is flesh driven most of the time. And to deny something that you really want or that makes you happy, like I was talking about earlier, or that makes you feel good in the moment and it's just wonderful, it's hard for them to deny their flesh, right? Which is what the word calls us to do. It is hard for them to deny that and literally surrender everything that they have and know in their brain to be like, I've seen this and it don't look good and it doesn't seem like this feels good. This doesn't look like what I would want. So
Right.
just like, marriage is like, okay, oh, my parents have been married forever, but they have a horrible marriage. They live in
Yeah.
separate rooms. They're
Hmm.
just examples upon
Hmm.
examples of
Hmm.
people who have been in a faith walk and they see examples of that and they like, I want to do the opposite. If you talking about surrender to God and this is the example of that
Yes.
or this is the fruit of that,
Yeah.
I don't want it.
Yeah.
I don't want it. So they
That's
choose, they make a
unfortunate.
conscious decision,
Yeah.
yeah, to choose differently.
Yeah.
But this is why we have to, again, of course, be praying for your children, but also
Yeah.
being able to have conversations with them about this. And this is something me and my kids, we talked about not too long ago. Me, my husband, and my children, we watched a movie and we ended up telling them, like, y'all have to learn how to pray and be able to cover yourselves because again, what you're coming into agreement with that we're, trying to fight this fight for you in the spiritual, you're going to have to start fighting for yourselves.
Yeah.
And it's just really experience. They haven't really been brought to their knees yet. There's some
Right.
experiences that they have to go through as
Yeah.
young adults. And I
Yeah.
think there's a period of time in their lives that
Yeah.
will, and it's unfortunate that they won't listen to, people, wise
Wise
counsel,
counsel.
like,
Yeah.
like come on,
Yes. Yeah.
they're not listening to
Mhm.
wise counsel. Like, I'm like, I don't want you to have to experience what I have experienced. I want you to do better by seeing, okay, mommy's telling me that she didn't do it right. So
Yeah.
let me make a better decision.
Yeah.
But again, they haven't had the opportunity to be, I would say, forced into a surrender, unfortunately. Surrender,
Mm.
is that consecration where you're just like, I am literally
Yeah.
being broken to a
Yeah.
point where it's like, okay, I don't have no choice but to look up,
Right.
and Lord, whatever it is now that you have for me, just give it to me now.
Yeah.
But most of the time that is a very traumatic experience or something bad that has happened, some decision that has been made that they
Yeah.
cannot take back, that they now have to live through.
Right.
Those things are the things that happen for our young adults because they don't listen. And it's not all of them, right? But it's
Right.
a lot of them. And
Yeah.
that's the standpoint I will say is my little experience.
But you said something powerful, Latoya. Just to address you started off with, they've seen, so and so drunk and it changed. They seen this person's marriage is bad. That sounds like they didn't see victory as a person who walks with God.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know that's something that, I don't know if we talk about it or don't talk about it, but a lot of times, I mean, if you keep it 100, and I like the practicality to that.
Yeah.
Why should I follow a God that you don't trust or believe enough
Mhm.
to obey enough, to
Yeah.
walk with enough in the spirit
Yeah.
where you've overcome? We understand because there's two lanes, because then you can have those who felt like they've been faithful, and I think that's a different situation where they've been faithful and maybe they've had family members that still have not come to, and there may be spiritual warfare to come against your seed. There is a book that says the devil's after our seed sometimes. So sometimes, like,
Absolutely.
it's two different things where you may say, well, to me, I believe, is my perspective, that you've tried to be obedient, you tried to be faithful. So why is the Lord allowing this perhaps in my children's life or whatever? And I just look at sometimes as just, I do believe it's sometimes warfare, and the enemy tries to come for your seed, and that's the prayer. But then I think there's also those groups, as you mentioned, that's looking to the family members that have had no victory in
Yeah.
an area or areas, which, I think about Paul when he said to the person on the mat, get off your mat, take up your mat and walk.
Mhm.
Here
Yeah.
he's a disciple. He's going into,
Mhm.
I love the scriptures where he's same thing. It's like, I'm not giving you silver and gold today. Today, you're going to have to get delivered. You're going to, and I don't know that he said it. I'm sure he said it with love because that's who Jesus is, right? But whatever he said, I'm sure he didn't be like, that's
He said-
enough. I'm not giving you no more. I'm sure he said it right. But however he said it, it was effective, right? So let's try to mimic his spirit. And but whatever he did, he said, take up your mat and now walk, and took him into the temple. And hence this man was not only delivered, but he had also given his life to Christ. So, I don't know how that would translate to today's modern time, but it's certainly, it's the power of God that we, where we need to, find out ways that our younger generation can see victory in our lives.
Agreed.
Yes.
Right now, where they're seeing
Yeah.
victory, and let's take it further, they're seeing victory through the hip hop artists or the
Exactly.
sports
Yes.
artists,
Yeah.
sports
Or
artists.
what they think is,
Yeah.
or
What they think. Well, yeah,
because
I
that's,
said
you
perceive.
don't get to
Yeah.
yeah, because they don't see the daily struggles, they don't
Yeah.
see all of the things. But
Right.
again, it's about that communication too
Yeah.
with our kids and really just speaking to them
Yeah.
like, hey, look, it may not look glamorous and every day is not gonna look good, but we still serve a God that's good,
A good
right?
God.
A
Right.
good God, right? And so, but like you're
Yeah.
saying, we
Yeah.
have to be the example
Yeah.
to be able to show them victory because they haven't seen it. And I also believe that's the enemy at work, showing them and bringing them things into their brain that is like, okay, yeah, well,
Oh,
this
yeah.
so and so does this, so and so does that, for them to be, judgmental and thinking about all of the bad things, right? And not saying, oh, but you know what? They overcame that, or thinking of the good things. Again,
Yeah.
it is all spiritual, I believe, and it is all spiritual warfare with our children and how the devil is
Yeah.
able to use their minds to make them believe something that is just totally not of God and not true.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, ladies, this has been such a great discussion. We might have to pick it up and do a session 2 on this one.
It was
But
good.
yeah, in closing, we often have a will, God has a will. And the more we can align what our will
Right.
is with his will, then the more we experience that abundant life that Christ promises when he
Amen.
saves us. So this has been great. I would like to just share a couple of scriptures. Many are the plans in the mind of a man, but it's the purpose of God that will be established. That's Proverbs
Amen.
19, verse 21. Um, Always, I think this came up in our last one, Matthew 6:33, seek ye first the kingdom. Just always looking, Lord, this is my will. I want to do this, but Father, I want it to be aligned with you, and just allowing God to lead and guide. And um, young ladies out there, we just want to encourage you. If you're looking and you're trying to figure out what is God's will for your life, look to his word, look to scripture, look to wise counsel, like Marilyn was saying earlier. Pray and find peace in your prayer, because he will give you peace in a direction if that's where he wants you to go. And make sure that if it's representing him, it aligns with his character, it aligns with fruit of the spirit. And you will most likely be right in the center of God's will if you stay within
Amen.
those parameters. So God bless you all. We thank you for joining us tonight. Latoya, take it away.
Yes. Well, y'all make sure that you're following us on all of our social media platforms. We are at Keep It Holy Sis on Facebook and Instagram. And then on YouTube and TikTok, we are at Keep It Holy Sis PC. And as always, keep it holy.
Keep
But
it.
holy.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.